Hello everyone. So good evening from Bangladesh, ladies and gentlemen, and viewers of the session and audience from different part of the country and the world. Welcome to our another masterclass today. And we are delighted to make this important session on investment readiness for startup happen today, which is powered by Impactors Connect, Department of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and also Jain Bangladesh, which is Global Entrepreneurship Network Bangladesh. I am Asif Iqbal, the founder and CEO of Impactors Connect. Would like to welcome you all to this masterclass. So let me welcome to our speaker of today's session. I have my very favorite Fadi Naffah. He's my good friend from all the way to Lebanon. We are privileged to have you, Fadi. Fadi is a business strategist, mentor, coach, and with us. He's the keynote speaker of today's masterclass, and let me give some more information about him. He is such a wonderful person and a great mentor of startup of different part of the world. With 17 years, 17. It is 17 years of international experience for the work across multiple fields across different entrepreneurship, innovation and technology related issues in different part of the world. Today's He's also actively involved with World Business Angel Investment Forum (WBAF), where he acts as both the business mentor, helping SMEs in the 5 continents, also as part of WBAF Business School, where I am also the mentor of WBAF Business School. He is also the Secretary-general of the Mentorship Department of WBAF Business School as well. So he is not only being part of his own country, that is Lebanon, in business studies and so on. Other than this, he is actually be a part of the global entrepreneurship ecosystem on his expertise, business strategy, and helping different SMEs and startups. So without further delay, I'd like to request Fadi to share his views and presentation on investment readiness for a startup. Fadi, the floor is yours, and we are really happy to have you. And we are looking forward to learn something more for these issues.
Thank you, Asif. I'm really delighted to be here with you today and with all your audience. Thank you for this invitation. So, without any delay, I will share my screen. And today, as Asif said, we're gonna talk about investment readiness. So, during my career, I worked with a lot of startups, so I accumulated some tips and tricks based on that experience, which I'm going to share with you today. Just a second. Okay, so we're gonna start right away. So our session today is more about how to get ready to your investment pitch. So you have an appointment with your investor or a judging panel or an investment panel. What are the things that you need to take care of so you can be ready for that event? We're going to talk how to simply make your business idea understandable, how to tailor your pitch to your investor, and how to perform a convincing pitch. Let's start first by this. If we see this ship in the middle of the ocean, do we really have a clear idea where this ship is going? Definitely not. And most of the startup where they were preparing to pitch in front of investor, they are in the similar state. They don't know actually to which port they are sailing. So in that case, no wind actually is favorable. As a summary, so I will start with the summary. When you want to go in front of an investor, your strategy should be as follows. Very simply, you need to present yourself that you know exactly where you are, you know exactly where you want to go, you know the exact route that you want to take, even though you have multiple other routes that you can use. And most importantly, you know actually what do you need, what kind of tools, what kind of support that you need in order to take that journey and go from your current location to that future location. So in summary, this is how you need to present yourself in front of an investor. This is how they should perceive you. And now we're gonna dive deep to see what kind of tool and techniques that you can use, what some tips and tricks that you can use in order to present yourself in such a way? First, you need to start by making your business idea understandable. When it comes to communicating, we all tend to fall victim to two tendencies. First, we suffer from what we call the curse of knowledge. And second, we explain things the way that work best for us, not for our audience. So very simply, we know too much about our topic. So we explain to our audience based on our own knowledge. So we always used to think, what do I want to say? Where actually we should think, what does my audience need to hear? So keep this in mind. You need to put yourself in your audience shoes and you need to think, what does your audience want to hear? That's why you need to pay attention to four main pillars. You need to get to know your audience. You need to choose the one thing that they should understand after you leave. You need to give context to any idea that you're presenting, and you need to pay attention to your language. Let's dive deep into each one of those. First, get to know your audience. So, trick of the trade, whenever you're presenting information, it's never about the presenter, it's always about the audience. Get to know who they are. If you are invited to a pitching panel, you have 3 or 4 investors in that panel, research those investors beforehand. Understand, are they from a financial background? Are they from a scientific background, a business background, tech guru? What's most important for them? Are they interested by the financial side of your business, by the social side, by the impact side? And in order to do so, simply you can search online for articles they wrote, for interviews they made, for webinars they delivered, for panels they participated in. And from by doing that, you really understand the different personas that you have. You understand if you have a scientist on board and what kind of language he uses, so we can use something similar to the kind of vocabulary that you use, so we can connect with them. Or if you have a businessman that is more interested about the profit and loss of your business, or if you have a tech guru that he's really interested by the innovative technology that you are presenting. So by knowing your audience beforehand and researching them, you can tailor-made your pitch by injecting some keywords, some vocabulary, some terms that resonate with each one of them. Now, the next thing is choose one thing that they should understand. So if something is too complicated, trying to tackle too much information at once, most probably your audience will get lost and will forget about it. Okay? So you need to ask yourself two questions. If my audience will remember only one thing about my explanation, what that one thing should be? And why should my audience care about this one thing? So let me give you an example. And this is a real life example. One of the startups that I worked with, they were developing a very sophisticated device that can test food anyway on the go in less than 3 minutes. So you just take part of your food that you want to eat, you put it in that small device, and in less than 3 minutes, it will give you if it's okay or not to eat it. They were using a similar sketch to explain the technology and the device, where simply the main two advantage of that device, it's portable and it's easy to use and carry on wherever you go. By using such schematic, it made things too much complicated. Instead, when they change and they use the simple and neat picture, they directly showcase to the audience that this device is easy to carry on wherever you want, and it's very small and fit within your palm of your hand. So for them, the key message that they want to deliver, that it's easy to carry on and easy to use. So by focusing on the showcasing this idea, they delivered the one thing that they wanted the audience to remember long after they are gone. Next, whenever you're explaining something, give a context, use example. So you've done your research, you know the player, you know what makes them tick, you have tremendous clarity on what the one thing you want them to remember. We still need to do what you actually still need to do is to deliver that information in a way that stick and that is very clear. For example, you can say, I had this new idea that it will save us time and money and effort, and I need this budget to get it done. That's a simple, straightforward explanation. But what if we can say it in another way? In the following way, what's the one thing, and this is an actual real life scenario for an app that was developed. What's the one thing that no one likes to do in business? It's travel expense reporting. Imagine that we have 50 team members on a weekly basis, each one of them spending 1 hour to report their travel expenses. That's 50 hours that we could save and invest in profitable work. Imagine if we can save 75% of that wasted time by using an AI-backed expense tracking system. So with this simple explanation, we highlighted the importance of the problem, and we highlighted that it's very important to use solutions that save us 75% of those 50 hours, and those 75% recovered can be used in profitable business activity. So we gave context, we shared information. Now the solutions that we're putting on the table, it's appealing to our audience. Next, you need to watch your language. Although technical words are very important, but using them in front of the wrong audience, it will fire back on you. They might seem impressive, but it really helps to anyone to understand what's going on. So always try to use a simple, everyday language, simple line. Try to avoid as much as possible acronym, jargon, or high niche phrases. And if it's impossible to avoid, make sure that you explain them. So whenever you break complex idea into simple idea, you create connection. The receiver understand the message and what you're trying to explain. I will give you also another example. One of the startups that I worked with, they were creating an IoT device that automatically detects some kind of flies whenever they start appearing in any field. The name of the scientific name of the fly, it's Ceratitis capitata. When the first time they were pitching to me, I didn't understand what does it mean, and it took me a while to ask them and them to explain, so I understood. But surprisingly, that Ceratitis capitata fly have another very well-known name among non-scientific, non-expert, which is called Mediterranean fly, medfly. So I advise them to just switch the name, and by switching the name, in the next round, they had a more easy explanation because they use vocabulary that everyone understands and can relate to. So now let's move to talking about some tools that you can use in your presentation in order to relay a message or to explain an idea. We're going to talk about all these tools, and we're going to give an example. If you want to explain to someone how to shoot an arrow, to use a bow and an arrow, and how to shoot an arrow, we're going to use 6 different techniques, okay, 6 different tools actually, to demonstrate how they can shoot an arrow. Let's start with the first technique, which is the diagram technique. Usually, we use this technique to help display a concept, a think chart, a process flow, or a mind map. For example, if you're going to talk about the stance, you start by, you want to develop your stance. You have 3 different types of stance. It's an open stance, closed stance, square stance, and you deconstruct under each stance what are the different way of doing it. So this kind of diagram presentation, as I said, it helps to portray a sync chart, a process flow, or a mind map. Next tool that you can use, it's deconstruct. Deconstructing a concept or dissecting a concept, you start small and you expand. It's like a list or stage or layer. For example, you start here by explaining how to position the bow. You start simply by the first step, holding a bow arm straight out. Open up your hand, forming a V shade with the thumb. Set the bow in the middle of the V. Keep grip loose and relax. Finger should be at 45 degree angle from the bow. So I'm not diving deep in actually the detail of that example, but the idea is you see how it's deconstructed, how it's dissected, and it's built up starting by small steps, step by step. So you are building the knowledge of your audience so they can understand the full picture. So you develop their knowledge step by step so they can reach a phase where they have the full picture and they understand it in a very simplistic way. Next, whenever you're presenting a concept, you can use, you can compare, you can draw similarity or differences to something that's already known by your audience. So you can try analogy or metaphor. For example, if you want to talk about how they should, the finger should hold the string of the bow, you can say by creating a hook shape. Everyone understand what's a hook. Hook, it's something that they encounter in their life, that they relate to. So by using this analogy, okay, it will be more easy for them to understand your concept or what are you talking about. The next tool that you can use, it's very simple. It's simply using a picture or a drawing so they can dissect the different elements of what you are trying to say, of what you are trying to present in a simplistic way that they can relate to. Another, it's backward mapping, which is more aligned with what we call like reverse engineering. You start with the end in mind and you discuss how you get there. Essentially, it's reverse engineering of the entire process. So here you are asking them to visualize that the arrow is hitting the actual target. Mentally, they imagine it and they relax and they start going back how this arrow was already released and what was their posture when they released that arrow and what kind of alignment they use. So backward mapping or reverse engineering, also it's in some cases, it's very useful by putting your audience directly imagining the end goal in mind, where you want to reach, then they walk back to the original state that you started from. The final tool that you can use is to divide the information by chunk and deliver it by chunk. For example, you can talk only about the arms and how they should be. You can talk about the fingers and about the chest. So you dissected the entire concept into 3 main chunks and you deliver the information by chunk. So in that way, it will be easy for them to digest. So they are building a specific pillar of the information. After finalizing that pillar, they are moving to a second pillar and a third pillar until they get a full picture of what you're talking about. Next, we're going to see how you need to tailor your pitch to your investor. We talked about different techniques or tools that you can use to deliver some idea to your audience. Now, let's talk about how you need to tailor your pitch. During this stage, startup receive help in determining its final product, its demographic, after validating the product market fit, and now you want to target the market. That's very important, but how you can deliver this message in a very simplistic way. So the one thing that you need to remember, the purpose of the pitch is to trigger your investor desire, not to land an investment. Yes, you're pitching for investor, but this is only the first stage. So you need to trigger the desire into your investor or your panel to know more, to take you to the next step, not to close a deal. It's still too early. All startup goes to any pitching event and they think at the end of the event, I'm going to walk out with a check in my hand. No, guys, it's only the first step in the entire investment process, which lasts in a happiest scenario 6 months and up to 18 months or even more in some cases. At each step, your target should be is to win this step and go to the next step. The last step is closing the deal. So, and this is the strategy that you need to adopt when pitching in front of your investor. So, in order to do so, what are the investors looking for in a pitch deck? Actually, they are looking they are evaluating you on two things: the return, the potential return on an investment in case they invested in your business, and the risk associated with that investment. The risk because it might prevent them from getting that return. So whatever information you're delivering, at the first glance, the first evaluation would be, what's the return if I invested in that startup versus what's the risk that might prevent me from getting that return. If they are balanced, or if the return is winning, then they are more encouraged to go to the next step. If the risk is winning, then something wrong, and you need to deliver it in a different way, or you need to revisit your pitch or your business model. Next, your opening statement, you need to get it right and we're going to see afterward how you can do it in a very simplistic way. In 30 seconds, you need for the investor to understand the pain you're talking about. He needs to feel confident that you really understand your market. He needs to see what's the idea, the technology, the value proposition, or the business model that you're working on. What's really unique about your innovation, and if it's feasible or not. All of this needs to be delivered in 60 seconds, and we're going to see how later on. Now, we reach the critical phase. Is a pitch deck. You see a lot of, okay, let's move back. You see a lot of format online about pitch deck. A 10 slide, 11 slide, 14 slide, 16 slide. You see a lot of names. For me, all of them work, but you need to tailor each one of them depending on your case. Now I'm going to present to you one of those versions, and I'm going to explain each step. But also, this is not set in stone. This is a general one, but depending on your case, you can move some slide, the sequence, and adjust some information. But it's very important to understand the logic and the strategy behind it. First, we're going to talk about whenever you start with either your elevator pitch or your vision. Okay, where you want to be, what's the big idea that you're working on, the one thing that you do better than anyone else, and you have actually 10 to 15 seconds to hook your audience, so they will be interested to listen to the remaining slide, or you lose them. Slide number 2, which is the problem. You need to describe the actual problem that you are solving. You need to identify who are the targeted customer users that they are suffering from that problem, and explain why they are frustrated with the current solution, so you still have a place to present a solution to their problem. Okay. The next slide is about the product or the service that you are putting in place. Show how your product works in a very simple step. Keep it visual. Use some of the tools that we already talked about. Keep it simple. Don't go into in-depth technical detail that might confuse your audience. Then they will lose interest in your product or in your innovation. After describing your product and service, now you need to describe your business model. In a very simplistic definition, your business model is how are you going to make money? So you need to explain how are you going to make money out of this product or service when you launch it in the market. After you explain how you're going to make money, how much money you're going to make? So you're going to talk about the market opportunity. Do you have enough market opportunity so we can make enough money, enough profit, so it will be a sustainable, profitable business? Do you have what it takes to dominate that target market? And here you can explain about the market opportunity in two ways. Either you do it a bottom up or a top down. A bottom up, if you already have some traction and some validation, and we're going to talk about them now in slide 6, you describe that we already achieved that much, and we are planning in 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 years to achieve that much, and this is how we're going to do it. If it's a top down, then you start the usual, like this is how much the market size, then total addressable market, obtainable market, serviceable market, and you start zooming in to the area that you want to play, and you describe what's the size of that market segment. After talking about the market opportunity, here it's the moment of truth. You need to talk about the traction, validation. You explain the vision, the problem, your product and service solutions, the business model, how you're going to make money, that big market opportunity with multi-million dollars. But actually, this till now, you are still at theoretical level. You need to deliver proof that the market actually needs your product. And here you need to talk about the traction or validation. If you already have traction, it's a tangible proof that customers love your product and willing to pay for it. If you don't have traction, you need to talk about your validation, how you validated with the intended customer segment that they are really interested in such a product or service. After you talk about the validation, now how you're going to invade the market, how you're going to grow. So we're going to talk about the marketing and the growth strategy. So how you'll acquire and retain customer in a profitable manner and at scale. So you will grow. How you will keep your product competitive in the market, so you can stay in the game on the longer run. It's not about a 6 or 1 or 2 year success, but what about the future? What about your sustainability? So your growth strategy need to be in place. Slide number 8, you talk about competition. Why? Because what are going to fight your growth strategy and your sustainability in the market? Your competitor. So you need to list your competitor. You need to explain in tangible detail, not just some rosy dream, in tangible detail, why your product is better than their product, but from the eyes of your customer, not from your eyes as an expert in technology and explaining the best technology that you are putting in place. How it's better from your competitors in the eye of your audience, depending on your audience need, on the functionalities that they are interested in. So after now talking about the competition, you talked about all these achievements that you can do. Okay, who's the team who's going to do this achievement? Now it's the right moment to introduce your team, the different set of skills that you have in your team that will enable you to deliver on all the claim that you've been saying from slide number 1 till slide number 8. Here, you need to, for your investor, for your audience, to build the trust that this team is a winning team and he can deliver on what he already promised. They have the right combination from someone who really understands the industry, someone who really understands the technology, and someone who really understands the market segment that is targeted, the audience. After describing the team, you talk about your financial. Your financial, we all know that it's a wishful thinking. It's not an exact science. It's a wishful thinking that if you were able to achieve all what you claimed before, in 3 or 5 years, you will be able to achieve such and such number. What's important here is to make this number logical and coherent. So if I have this product, slide number 3, that's solving the problem of slide number 2, and I'm using this business model, slide number 4, okay, to make money, to generate revenue, and I have this size of the market opportunity, and I started with this amount of traction that I'm going to grow in the next 3 years using this marketing and growth strategy versus this competition, this is how my number are going to grow. So the size of the market with how you're going to make money need to be aligned with your financial forecast. They need to be coherent and logical, and we're going to talk about coherence later on. So after you explain to your audience the potential of how big is the opportunity, how you're going to expand in 3 and 5 years and achieve that or that amount of revenue and profit. Now slide number 11 that most of the time is forgotten, which is the actual ask. What? Okay, you explained all this to me, but what do you need from me? What are you asking from me? Are you asking from me for money, for technical assistance, for market access? What do you actually need from me? And also the ask need to be in alignment with all what you said before. In many slides, people pitch that they already won such and such competitions, they got such and such funding from because they are working on some research, and they reach the ask, we need 2 additional million euro. Why? Because we are in an investment pitching. Okay, but actually what you need is an investor with market access, not with that big amount of money, because you already raised money in the past 3 years. What you actually need now is the right investor with the right access or route to market in the industry you're playing in. So the ask is not only about the money, it's about what you actually need. Now, after we talked about one of the sample of the pitch skeleton, and what's important is the logic, how we build the logic from slide 1 to slide 11 and how they are interconnected. In some cases, we can shift the slide. For example, if you are a fintech company, the team is very important to be presented in slide number 1. Why? Because we see tons and tons of fintech company each day. Everyone claiming that they are the next unicorn in the fintech space. Most of them lack a lot of knowledge in the industry or in the technology. So if you have a strong team to build confidence, so the investor listen to the remaining of your slide, you start by presenting your team. I have X who've been in the financial industry for the past 25 years. He working was the first 5 big banks or financial institution in Europe or in Bangladesh or in the Far East. I have X who's been at the software development working on banking software for the past 15 years. I have Z who's been the CEO of a very well-known bank for the past 8 years. So by presenting your team in the first slide, you build confidence. We don't have a dreamer. We have a strong team covering all aspects of the business, and they really know what they're talking about. So we will be able to listen to the remaining of your pitch. So that's one of the example how we can tailor and change this pitch. Now next, after the pitch, you need to have a set of documents ready with you. Whenever one of the investors asks about anything, your co-founder or your partner who's sitting in the audience on his laptop, he can directly email it to him. What's the most important documents that you need to have after performing or while performing a pitch in front of a panel or an investor? First, the executive summary. Sometimes it's called a summary memo or an investment teaser. It's a 2 to 3 page overview of your business. Actually, it's a document that you can share with the investor, and investor can share with his partner and other to see if they are interested in the opportunity. It's a more written description of the 11 slides that you just presented in a short manner, 2 to 3 pages, not more. The technical documentation. If you are starting a tech company or a medical company, you may be asked to provide some additional detail on the technology. Investor in this type of company will often want to vet your technical claim with their pool of experts, because personally they are not a deep tech expert in what you're claiming. So providing a more technical documentation, diagram, workflow might be important. Of course, paying attention not to disclose any critical information or very sensitive information. And definitely you can ask them to sign an NDA if you're working on something that it's really big and not patentable yet. The next document is financial model. You described briefly in your presentation in one slide your forecast, 3 to 5 years. But if they are really interested, they need to understand the detail of your business. So the detail in your financial forecast for at least the next 3 years, so they can really understand the underlying assumption that's driving that forecast. Investor will want to see your plan for hiring, employee-related expense, R&D expense, manufacturing cost. Do you really understand your cost, or you're just dreaming about having a very low cost? Do you really understand the marketing expenses? So all this information can be retrieved from this detailed financial document that you have. Next, if you're really working on a big opportunity, they might ask you for marketing validation. What's your detailed market research that validates that the opportunity you're working on is actually that big? And you need to understand that you really understand that market, the in and out, and how to get there. So the more you provide detail about your target market and target audience, and that you show that you actually did all the needed research, the more confidence they will have to invest in you. Next, now we talked about different tools and techniques that you can use. You talked about a structure of a pitch deck, what you need to get with you in terms of documentation ready when you are pitching in front of an investor. Now, how we're going to talk about your performance while pitching. How to perform a convincing pitch. Remember, everything in life, a normal presentation or a pitch in front of an investor, it has an introduction, a core content, and a closing. In your case, the intro is going to be the opening statement that we talked about and we're going to talk about now. You have around 9 slides, which is the core content describing all the business, and the closing, which is the ask, what you want them to do for you. As we said, it's money, it's technology assistance, it's market access, whatever. Let's start with the opening statement. An opening statement can simply be as follows, which is a script where you can start with, my company X is developing here, what are you actually offering to help that target market to solve that problem using this secret sauce. It's a 15-second, 1-line or 2-line statement that you can use as an opening statement in slide number 1 if you don't have your vision in place. And also this opening statement, you can use it whenever you encounter anyone. So we call it elevator pitch because actually it summarizes if you met someone in an elevator and you have 10 or 15 seconds to tell them what your startup does. This is the kind of statement that you can use. So it's a very simplistic statement. You can start by this structure if you are new to the game, and you can develop it later on. Or the opening statement, you can use simply a short video, less than a minute video, where you can explain in a very short manner and grab the attention of your audience. And we're gonna, let me try if the video will work. Okay. Asif, do you see this video or not?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, excellent. If you see the video, excellent. So as you can see here, this is one of the startup in Germany that I worked with. They developed a device that's called Cool Pen to treat any kind of skin, wart, acne. It can remove tattoo. And here, very silently, without any audience, just that a little bit of information in approximately 3 minutes, they are showing you how the treatment is being done, what's the first result that you can expect. Then they will tell you the next day how the result would be, and after 8 weeks, how the result is perfect. And all of this is done in 34 seconds. So you can see how in 34 seconds they were able to hook the audience, demonstrate state-of-the-art technology by providing a proof. The next technique can be it's using analogy. For the same company, you can see they are using analogy by applying the treatment on a watermelon to showcase how the technology can be used without affecting the skin. And they done that in only 14 seconds. Now we're gonna hear a longer story. It's about 2.5 minutes. First, it talks about entrepreneurship. So that's why it's very important. I wanted to share with you, but also to demonstrate how a story can tell a lot and deliver a message.
Maybe we can't hear any sound of the video.
Oh, you don't hear the sound?
No.
Okay.
Maybe you have to reshare that.
Let me. Okay. Let me stop sharing and see if while sharing I should. Let me. Okay. Share screen. Some screen. Okay. Okay. Share audio. Here it is. Okay. Let me try now. The sound is on.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's on.
So I'm going to close with a little story. And it was another epiphany moment for me where I learned sort of what does it take to be a successful entrepreneur. And I learned it from sports, but it really applied. So the guy on the left is one of my best friends from home. That's Evander Holyfield. We spent a lot of time together over the years. Our career paths are radically different. He never had education. He made his career in sports. Obviously, I went through education and business, but a lot of our core values are the same. And so he was training for not that fight, but I picked that picture because it's Mike Tyson being knocked out for the first time in his career. Still proud of that moment. Evander was training for a big fight. I think it might have been the Lennox Lewis fight. And I was there with him when he was doing this workout. And he does this exercise that he does 3 sets of 100 of. This exercise that most of the human race could not do twice. And he does it 300 times. That's why he looks like that, and I look like this. One day we were walking through the hotel in Vegas before a fight, and he peeled his shirt off and said, "Let's go to the pool." And I said, "I'll be in my room watching TV. Not going to go to the pool with that guy." So he's doing this exercise, and we're at the end, and I'm counting. And I said, 299, 300. And Evander said, "Jeff, was that 299 or 300? I said, "Evander, it was 300. And without taking his eyes off me, he kind of went back with this huge weight, all the sweat and those muscles rippling. And he said, "I think it was 299. And he did one more. And I made this mistake. I rolled my eyes. I was like, all right, whatever, 299, 300. And then he said, "Look at me." And I remember thinking, It's been a good life. I didn't think it was going to end here, but I made the fatal mistake. And I said, okay. And I looked at him, and he gave me this stare, and he told me something I never forgot because it applied to everything I've ever done in life. He said, Jeff, the difference between $299 and $300 is the difference between heavyweight champion of the world and every other boxer. And he got up and walked away, and I sat there with goosebumps because I realized that was my mantra for the rest of my life. You will not succeed unless you give it everything you have. I realized that every day that I'm tired and it's late at night and I've already done $299 and that's almost $300, that's good enough. There is some guy in the gym next door doing $300. There is somebody in a business competing with you that did $300. And tomorrow, $299 was good enough Thursday, so $298 is going to work today. That's almost $299. I realized that the key to success in anything you do in life was set hard goals and don't stop until you get there. And I never forgot his lesson. I remember looking at him and thinking that's the reason that man made $250 million in the ring and became the heavyweight champion of the world, because he took a discipline to his work and his commitment that he never wavered from. I guess I will leave you with that whatever your idea is, you're only going to get there one way, which is set a goal of 300 and finish it.
Okay, so I wanted to share the message first because it is really a motivational message for every entrepreneur, and to demonstrate, like in 2.5 minutes, you can tell your entire story instead of using 11-slide presentation. You can tell it as a story in 2-3 minutes, the entire story of your business. And if it's appealing enough, if the script is very well written, you can attract your audience for the entire period while you're telling your story, and it will get you to the next level. Now, okay. Now it's the last section of our presentation today, which is some pitching tips. Keep it simple, okay? Keep your okay. So keep it simple. You don't have to tell everything in your presentation. You can spend countless hours thinking about every last detail in your business, but for investor pitch, less information is better than too much information. You want your slide to be simple, convey a high-level idea, so when you leave, you can leave room for question. It can be simple, straightforward presentation. Remember, the purpose is to get them interested enough so you can go to the next level in the investment raising journey. Next, skip bullets. We all agree that we don't use text, but also too much bullet on your screen is not going to be in your best interest, or is not going to serve you. We saw in the first section a lot of tips and tricks, what kind of things that you can use, some chart, some diagram, a small 30-second video, you can tell a story. So whatever if appropriate, try to minimize your bullet, use large font, limit the number of words on each slide, use images wherever possible. It will help tell your story. Next, actually tell a story. As we just saw, you can say a lot by just telling a story. Talk about the fact, so we can grab your audience in a very nice storytelling mechanism. And there's a lot of short video on YouTube that will teach you how to build an appealing story that can attract your audience. Keep it short. Whatever time that's allocated for your time in front of an investor, always the rule of thumb, use 1/3 for the actual presentation and keep 2/3 for the question and answer, and for the investor to talk with you, discuss with you, and get more information out of you. Don't overstate the market opportunity. We always see startups talking about billions of dollars and millions of dollars. So make it logical, make it coherent, and whenever you can, back it with some scientific, if you want, sources. So as per the Financial Times, you have this number, or as per Gardner, you have this number. Coherence. Also in your slide, as we just discussed previously, they need to be related. They need to be linked to each other. if you are saying that you're going to grab a specific amount of the market share, that specific amount of market share need to be reflected in your financial forecast. The last point is keep your deck current and in PDF format. When you're going to pitch, it's a long journey. You're going to pitch like to 10, 20, even 100 or 200 investors before you get your first investment. It's going to take time. Keep your pitch deck updated. You cannot use a 6-month-old pitch deck to pitch your startup in the current situation in front of an investor. Keep it in PDF format because it's simple, lighter, and if they ask you for more information, then you can share more information. Sorry, I know I took too much time. Promise, this is the last slide.
Next second.
Okay, so this is the last slide. So always when you're talking, even now behind the camera, try to maintain eye contact. Practice to look at the audience even through the camera. Speak loud and clear. Use a humor when appropriate. So as we just saw in that 2.5-minute video, he passed some joke while he's telling a very interesting story. Stay within time, the allocated for you. As said, don't put too much text, too much information. Use more visual and image and diagram. One thing that you can count on, mistakes happen and they will always happen. Just stay normal and move on. Don't get stuck. If you are at the beginning of the presentation, just apologize and restart. If you are at the middle, just continue. It's not a big deal. Investors are used to seeing people pitching and having mistake. The last point that I'm going to stop here. There is no time to say it all. So focus on saying the important thing that will secure to get you to the next step, or that will let your investor ask you for more information. And as we said, that's why you have those 4 types of documents that's already prepared before your pitch. So if you are asked for more information, you can directly share them. Thank you, and sorry if I took too much time. And now if you have questions, we can discuss them.
So it was a wonderful presentation, Fadi. I mean, you can see that people from different parts actually appreciating the whole presentation. It was so amazing, and also many of them actually tell that they have learned something very specific fact about investment readiness for the startup. So a lot of questions has come. So we will go with 4 to 5 questions. So first question, I'll take from one comment, that is how I develop an investment policy statement. So this is come from one of the audience. You can
investment policy. Yeah. So if I understood you right, how develop an investment policy statement? Focus again on the first slide. You need to understand where your ship is, where you want to go, and through which route. Then you decide, okay, your investment policy. Sometimes raising investment is not the only solution. You can have crowdfunding. You can take a loan from a bank. So there's a different way. But if you really understand where you are, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there, okay, and what do you need to get there, you might discover that you can have a 200K loan to have an exponential growth. Then you go searching for a Series A or Series B investor where you have a more valuable startup.
Yeah, wonderful. So I hope he got the answer. Another question comes from another audience, that is how I can prepare myself to answer the investors' questions. So many of them are actually asking this question.
Yeah. So actually, no matter how much you prepare, you're always going to have some surprising question. One trick that you can use is while building your presentation, you intentionally leave some gray area. So kind of like you're pushing your audience to ask about this information that is not clear. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But the key is for you to really understand your situation, understand your market, the technology, the industries that you're playing with. And one key might be you are not talented in presenting, but you know it all. So maybe your partner or your business development manager, he will do the actual presentation, but on the Q&A section, you can join him in answering the question because you are the one that's more knowledgeable. So that's fine. You don't have to be one person on the stage handling the entire plate.
Wonderful. So, yeah, that is very important as well. So, another question, I'll go with another 2-3 questions, then we'll wrap up the session. So, another question I have found it very important question. That is, how do I determine whom should I reach for investment? Venture capital, bank, or angel investor?
Okay, again, this is depend on your case and where do you stand. Okay, this is actually aligned with question number 1. So your investment strategy is really understand what kind of help you need. Maybe you don't need that much amount of money, but you need an investor or a VC with expertise in that specific industry, with a huge network in that industry, so they can help you to get your product on the shelf life, to get your product in the market. So, sorry, it's a long process, and that's why it's very important to have an investment readiness coach next to you, working with you. This is actually what we do with all startups, because entrepreneur, they think they know it all, but actually you need a lot of help, and there are some key experts that can really facilitate your development if they are by your side. And this is one of the things. The same way I told you how you can shuffle the slide if you are, for example, in the fintech industry, the same apply depend on the product that you're selling, the service, in which industry, and what's the maturity of the market. For example, if you are working on a new innovative technologies that didn't exist before, and it needs a lot of licensing from government, you need a VC with a lot of connection with government entity, otherwise to get your product to be eligible to be launched in the market, it's gonna be a very long process, and you have definitely other startup in a different part of the world working on providing a solution to the same problem.
Okay, so thank you so much, Fadi, for answering that. And let me ask you another thing, that is, you are being a part of the angel investment arena for a long time, and also you're being a part of the World Business Angel Investment Forum, and you are the head of the Mentorship Department of WBAF Business School. Can you share something to our audience about angel investment? And also, one question has come, that's why I'm asking this: how they actually get angel investor?
Okay, actually, now you have a very well developed angel investment network in many countries around the world. That's a very positive thing. You need to connect yourself into the entrepreneurial ecosystem in your country. So, like you're doing now, as if you're facilitating this to your ecosystem, which is very positive thing, and I congratulate you on this. So, connect yourself, because angel investment work in networks, and they connect to each other. So, as Asif said, angel investment in a specific country also have connections with angel investment in a different country. So, if they are interested in your product and your product needs access to a different market, they can reach out to their counterpart in the angel investment network. How to get there? You need to research the ecosystem. Now, a lot of ecosystems are really developed. You have a lot of information online about the ecosystem in your geographical area. You need to research, connect to accelerator, to incubator. For example, a session similar to this one, don't spare any online session where you can get to know about any kind of an investor or a network or a support mechanism where that they can connect you to angel investment network. About the angel investment, something you need to clear. Some people think that it's free money. No, it's not free money. At the end of the day, it's an investment, and they are interested in return on their investment. Yes, they might have, not necessarily, but they might have a more leaner, if you want, constraint or rules to put money in your startup. But at the end of the day, it's not free money. They expect a return on their investment.
Yeah, so thank you so much. So let me share to the audience that Fadi is working for angel investment for a long time, and he's been a part of World Business Angel Investment Forum as well. So thank you so much, Fadi, for your wonderful sharing. I have last question in my hand, and this is also very important question the audience asked. That is the team for the startup. So many times we have heard, as we have seen a lot of times that the teams combinations and so on, it actually ruined the whole startups as well. So we have found that. So teams, formation of teams, and going. With that particular team for long times, what is your suggestion on team building for the startups?
Actually, yes, that's a webinar by itself. So, but in a very short answer, like, team is the first killing factor for any startup, and I've witnessed a lot of team breaking out. So, it's very important since day zero first, even if your friend or relative or childhood friend, to think about the happy scenario and the unhappy scenario. Whenever you are in a stage where you are really serious about starting a startup or registering startup, you need to develop what we call a co-founder agreement. And in that co-founder agreement, you need to include the happy scenario and the unhappy scenario. If one of the co-founder want to leave, what happens? You need to start right, even you are a friend or whatever. Start from there. Then, as a team decomposition, in general, you need to have industry experience, you need to have technology experience, you need to have business experience. It's not necessary that all of these come from the co-founder, but the co-founder need to realistically assess their strengths, identify their gap, then you can hire, okay? And actually, whenever you're asking for an investment, if you tell the investor that I have the technology experience, I am a researcher, I have the industry experience, but I need you, part of your investment in us going to go to hire a business development, communication, and sales team, that's very positive. That means that you really know your strengths, you really know what's missing, and you want that investment to fill in that gap. Asif? Asif, do you hear me? You're muted, Asif. You're on mute. Asif, I'm not hearing you.
Okay, so can you hear me now, Fadi?
Yes. Now it's good.
Yeah, okay. So I was muted, and I am just talking and talking. So it is most common. So everyone is appreciating the whole presentation and the program and your wonderful thought sharing throughout the.
Thank you.
1 hour. It was amazing, and you can see the comments and a lot of things. People are appreciating you, and thank you so much for joining us. So any last word to the audience and the startups who are watching us?
Just consider it as a journey, as a game. Just focus on passing the current step, going to the next step. don't focus too much on the end, because you will get lost and you skip some steps. So focus in each step how you're going to go to the next step. And thank you.
So thank you so much. So it is absolutely wonderful to have you, Fadi, today in our program. So thank you so much for all the audience who are actually watching us live today on this wonderful masterclass on investment readiness for the startups. So two announcements for you. One is we have another masterclass tomorrow on the same time here in this channel on idea to product market fit. So it will be from Luxembourg. So another one is we are going to announce we are going to host National Junior Entrepreneurship Bootcamp 2.0 from September 1 and 2 of this year, and you'll find more information in the I mean scrolling here. You can check it out. And thank you so much for joining, and thanks for being with us. And we hope to see you in our next program and onwards. So thank you so much, and Allah Hafiz, and good luck everyone.